Day 2 of the Zero Project Conference, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for staying with us. I know sandwiches and lunch is imminent, but think of this session as a wonderful appetizer with the title, How Do Mainstream Audiences Engage with Disability? My name is Robin Weiss, the Director of International Affairs at the Zero Project. Welcome to the session. I'm not the interesting part of this session. The speakers and the showcases we have is. So therefore, I won't dwell for too long, but rather outline to you why we convened this session. I think everyone in the room here knows about disability inclusion, is plugged into the disability inclusion ecosystem, understands the inherent baseline that human rights are disability rights and disability rights are human rights. However, outside of, let's call it a bubble, outside of this bubble, we also know the experiences we have personally had or friends and colleagues of ours have had, that this is not the case, that this is not mainstreamed, and that we have quite significant portions of the population who are not familiar with our topics, with our narratives. And therefore, we said, let's find stakeholders, let's find organizations who have been able to engage with mainstream audiences, and these are the individuals on the panel here today. And I always say, they do the best job of introducing themselves. So rather me trying to outline in great detail what they do, they will do a much, much better job. And in that sense, what we will do today are primarily two things. We will hear individual case studies, nice and compact. So from the 4 speakers we have here on stage, you'll hear interesting case studies of how they've been able to place disability in mainstream audiences and mainstream formats. And after that, we're going to delve into discussion amongst the panelists, and especially with you. You're patient, you're here with us, we want to hear your thoughts and insights. So start jotting down those questions, because we're going to seek the engagement with you towards the tail end of this session. So without further ado, as they would say, especially for the European audience, 12 points, 12 points goes to our first speaker from the Austrian Broadcasting Corporation, ORF, Mr. Robert Ziegler, who will tell you an interesting case study about a little event called the Eurovision Song Contest.
Thank you very much, Robin. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak here on this great conference and to explain our plans concerning the Eurovision Song Contest, which takes place in Austria, here in Vienna, in May. My name is Robert Ziegler. I'm the head of the Department of Accessibility and Inclusion in the ORF, which is the public broadcast in Austria, situated here in Vienna. I have to excuse my colleague, Judith Weissenbeck, who is the project manager from our project, our biggest and most important project for the Eurovision Song Contest, the Sign Performing, but she's fallen ill early in the morning today. So I try to explain what our plans and projects in the next months. The Eurovision Song Contest, if you are not from Europe, I make a very short introduction what it is. It's the world's biggest music competition. So, yeah. And it has been organized by the European Broadcasting Corporation. It's the corporation of all the public broadcasters in Europe since 1956, since 70 years. And it will take place, as I said, in Vienna from May the 12th to 16th, because the song from Austria, Wasted Love, from JJ, won last year. 35 broadcasters are participating, and approximately 180 million people will be watching on television or streaming platforms and so on. Yeah? And it's a great honor that this big competition will take place in Vienna. The motto is United by Music. And so it's very important for us that accessibility and inclusion are visible on television and also the event venue. What are we doing? Our most important project is sign performance. Perhaps many of you know what is sign performance. It's not only a sign language. Let me explain it very short. Sign performance is an artistic form of expression that uses sign language to represent musical content. It's not simply about translating song text into a sign language, but rather an independent artistic staging that incorporates elements such as body movement and facial expressions, rhythm and dance. And so it's not Austrian Sign Language, it's not German Sign Language, not British Sign Language. It's an international form to make the songs accessible for deaf and hard-hearing people. We are a little bit proud because the ORF, the Austrian Broadcasting Corporation, was the first broadcaster who offered this service the last time when the song contest took place in Vienna. It has been in 2015. And we offered this sign performance for the first time. What are we doing? The casting recently took place at the ORF in January. The jury included representatives from deaf organizations and the ORF. And 9 performers were selected. And that's very important. 9 performers, and all 9 performers from Germany and Austria are deaf or hard hearing. This is very important for us, that people with disability are part of the Eurovision Song Contest in Vienna. Our goal is to have as many stations as possible offering these performances for their deaf community. Our first context, we see that many stations are interested, but there are also parts of Europe where this offer is new and unknown, and now this event is a possibility for us to offer design performances for all the stations, for 35 stations in Europe. And this is a very short example. You see, this is one of the, Anna Burkhardt, one of the CERN performers. I started, you can see it. It's another one, Amanda Jovanovic, both from Austria. I think it could be a hard rock song, yeah. Highway to Hell, or not? Perhaps, I don't remember. Okay, as I just said, accessibility at the Eurovision Song Contest in Vienna is very important for us. We offer on the program, on television, subtitle or description, Austrian Sign Language during the shows, and reports in easy language. And that's also new, an Accessify app, an AI-based plug-in and play platform that can be used individually via your own smartphone through scanning a QR code. And so you can get audio description, sign language, speech to text, sound amplification during the events in the Vienna Stadthalle and the public viewings. And my last slide, we plan to offer vibration vests, vibrating elements on the body, and a special vest allows sounds to be experienced on the skin. We plan the use of volunteers with disabilities and service points for accessible services, staff training on dealing with people with disabilities, collected accessibility information offers on the web, and support for volunteers with disabilities in cooperation with the event organization. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robert. And I think some homework we can take away from your contribution. I see participants around the room who come from countries that participate in the Eurovision Song Contest. Maybe send an email to your TV station to ask if they are making use of this service, and if not, perhaps approach Robert, get his business card.
Thank you.
Yes, and make sure that this service is actually used. It's there, it can be requested, and it should be requested. So let's make sure that you said 35 TV stations?
35.
35. Let's make sure that all 35 TV stations book this service. That is my homework to you. Go home. We have some time till May, and let's make that happen.
And it's without costs for the other stations.
That is always even a stronger argument. Very good. What I did not mention before, this is a little secret that very few people of you know. I'm actually a football referee as well. So in terms of time management, Robert, thank you for sticking to the 6 minutes. I was not able to bring my yellow or red card today or a whistle, but I will be making little body language cues if our speakers cut away from the valuable time of engagement with our audience, but I know they are compact and to the point. And in that sense, my next question to the audience would be, if I mention the word Twitch, what are you thinking of? And it's not something that happens if you drink too many coffees. So Twitch is one of the largest, if not the largest, gaming streaming platform. Now, this might seem like, what is a gaming streaming platform? I might have to ask my teenager. Our next speaker will not only outline what Twitch is, but also outline what she has been able to do with TwitchCon Europe, one of the largest gaming conferences in the world. Marianne Dijkshorn, the stage is yours.
So thank you, Robin, and thank you to Zero Project for the invitation. My name is Marianne Dijkshorn. I work internationally as an accessibility advisor for events and venues. I advise organizers and public authorities on how to integrate accessibility into the full visitor experience in a practical and structured way. I am convinced that accessibility is a design task, not a theory.
I'm coming here just to adjust your microphone
very
slightly, that way.
So one of the projects I advise on is TwitchCon Europe. Twitch is a global live streaming platform where online communities come together around gaming and digital culture. TwitchCon is the platform's official live events, organized in both Europe and the United States, where these communities meet in person. The audience is mainstream, young and highly diverse. In 24 and 25, the city of Rotterdam asked me to advise on accessibility for TwitchCon Europe. From the start, the principle was clear. Accessibility should not be a separate service or a special program, but fully integrate to the event design. That means accessibility was embedded in communication, routing, seating, stage design, safety procedures, and staff introduction. And one simple but powerful example is the wheelchair mat. It creates a visible, equal place for wheelchair users. Sometimes the most effective solutions are the simplest. Accessibility went far beyond this. There were equal routes throughout the venue, quiet spaces, clear information provided in advance, and a clearly marked route outside the venue, which helped reduce sensory overload. It was widely used by the assistance dog owners. TwitchCon Europe also introduced the first changing place facility at an event in the Netherlands, enabling visitors who need care while lying down to attend events independently. I could tell you much more, but I would rather show you. This short video gives a visual impression.
If you perhaps could also audio describe some of the content for our audience.
Yeah, I missed the sounds. There was some background music. What we see here is the dog walking, the wheelchair mats, signs for every disability. Here we see the changing place facility, and that's my company name, Welcome Accessibility and Events. One moment stayed with me. During the event, a visitor asked me if I was responsible for the accessibility. When I said yes, he bowed deeply and thanked me. He explained that for the first time, his friends with disabilities could fully participate alongside him. That moment captured the meaning of equal experience better than any policy document ever could. The impact was visible and partly measurable. Around 15,000 visitors attended each day, and approximately 1 in 65 visitors reported having a visible disability. In the final days before the event, more than 1,000 additional tickets were sold, partly to extra communication about accessibility. Based on the visitor feedback and the media coverage, TwitchCon Europe has been described as one of the most accessible events worldwide. Importantly, this did not require a large additional budget. Less than 1% of the total event budget was allocated to accessibility measures. Most improvements came from hospitality choices, staff training, and doing things different, not doing more. TwitchCon Europe is used internationally as a practical reference for large-scale events, not as a final result, but as a working model that continues to evolve. The next step is clear. TwitchCon Europe 26 will take place again in the Netherlands. The ambition is to make it more accessible. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Marianne. And I loved the figure you gave us. Less than 1% of the budget was spent on accessibility. So really debunking that this is not a financial argument. So the next time any of you in the audience hear the argument, we don't have the money for it, perhaps ask, how much are you spending on catering? How much are you spending on white wine, on red wine? And is that more important to you than the accessibility of your event? So I think really, Marianne, thank you for showing us with 15,000 visitors what can be done at a mainstream gaming conference. And if anyone is interested to maybe get a discounted ticket, maybe Marianne can pull some strings. Exactly. So if you want a discounted ticket, please approach Marianne, let her know you want to be there in the Netherlands with her in 2026 to see her great work again. Twitch and gaming is mostly done on screens, and we're going to pass on to another type of screen, namely the TV screen. The screen most of you know after a long day of work. the series we watch, the movies we watch on the big screens in cinemas, and asking ourselves authentic casting. And I think we've all seen movies where disability has a narrative, perhaps, and most likely played by an actor without a disability, and also wondering, has that changed? Has that evolved? Where do we stand in terms of disability representation on the screen? And there's someone who can definitely give us some fascinating insights into that, and that is Shani Danda, and I'll let her give you the rest of her also quite illustrious acting career. Amongst others, she wears many hats, and very glad that she's with us. Shani, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much. Hello everybody, I'm Shani Danda, and by the way of a visual description, I am a South Asian disabled woman. I have a short stature, and today I'm wearing a burgundy jacket and trouser cord. So I'm based in the UK and work internationally as an accessibility consultant, but as Robin said, I wear many hats, and I'm also a broadcaster on TV and radio in the UK. And I have a quite unique perspective because I am on-screen talent, which means that you're someone in front of the camera, but I also work in an advisory capacity to the major broadcasters behind the camera as well. And that could be on what you end up seeing or don't see on screen, but it could also be about more internal things like employee relations or their disability inclusion work as well. So it covers quite a broad topic. And I think the story of authentic casting and representation in TV is one of some progress. I think that's something we can all agree on, but it's far from enough. And unfortunately, we only still see disabled people on TV because they're talking about experiencing disability or they're talking about the lack of accessibility. And we need better representation. Personally, I think that's, if that's our only representation, I think that's quite boring. And I think we're doing ourselves a massive disservice if the only time we see disabled people is in this context. So what that means is that TV really isn't yet reflecting the real world or the proportion of diversity of disabled people, and authentic casting remains quite rare. There are some agencies and some organizations that specialize in representing disabled talent, but the industry itself is still very risk averse. We can't forget that the world of TV, film and entertainment is one that is very competitive, and it's one that is based on, you know, nowadays especially, how much of an audience you can bring if you are put in front of a camera, which is why you might see more influencers in presenting roles more commonly now. But what that also means that, you know, much of the disability community is still feeling very unseen and is still very inaccurately portrayed. I just also wanted to share a stat as well. This is specifically from the advertising industry, but a lot of ads are made for TV, and it's estimated that 16% of us globally experience disability, but only 1% of ads feature disabled people. And that's a global stat. And I think that kind of demonstrates the bar and where we are in terms of representation. And I've talked about some negative aspects, but I wanted to talk about some positive aspects as well. I work with two main broadcasters that's in the UK, that's ITV and the BBC. And the BBC have a very famous soap called EastEnders. Has anybody heard of it? Yeah? Any fans? I'm a massive EastEnders fan, and I consult on their storylines, on their representation of disability, the portrayal of disabled people, and also their Sikh Punjabi family, because that's also my cultural background. And I was also very fortunate to have the opportunity to audition for a role. And the role briefing wasn't looking for somebody who was disabled. And I'm not an actress, by the way. It was just a bit of a unique opportunity that I got the opportunity to audition. I didn't think I'd get it, but I did. And I ended up being an estate agent on an episode of EastEnders, trying to sell somebody's house in secret. It was really fun. But I think I wanted to share that because what was brilliant is that piece of portrayal was really incidental. Like I said, they didn't put a brief out because they wanted a disabled estate agent, but they went with me, and that's what we need. We need more incidental representation of disabled people. It shouldn't be that when we see disabled people on TV, it's all about experiencing disability, or that's the reason that they're there. Also, I was in LinkedIn's first ever UK TV advert, and it told the story of how I found my job as a disability program manager at Virgin. And again, it was really authentic, the whole process. I wrote the script alongside the producers. They didn't want to put any words in my mouth. They were really keen to portray everything that I do in my house. So when they filmed me making a cup of tea, I needed a stool to do that in order to reach my kitchen cupboard. So it was really authentic, and I think that's what we need more of. And just to sort of summarize, real change is going to really come from more stories and scripts being shaped by disabled people themselves, more authentic roles, and a shift in industry norms where disability isn't a box-ticking exercise, but is really integrated into the heart of storytelling and production. Thank you.
Well, Shani, you said you're not an actress, and I wanted to add not yet. So I really like the point you had on incidental representation, and perhaps something that we can dig into later during our conversation amongst the panelists. We now move to someone who, through her organizational affiliation and through her work in disability representation in media, deals a lot with media executives, with variety of stakeholders within the media landscape, and will be able to tell us how not only she's been able to provide policy, but been able to translate that policy into tangible impact. And I'm very glad to have with us again Irmgarda from UNESCO. Thank you for being with us, and the stage is yours.
Thank you, Robin. I'm Irmgarda Kacinskaite-Budeberg, so I'm advisor for communication information at UNESCO. And Robin, you said that there are only 6 minutes for presentation. I didn't know what the rules in football has changed. Usually football players play 90 minutes, but I'll do my best. So thank you very much for inviting UNESCO to this panel. And I would like to share with you a little bit of information what we do in terms of building capacity of media institutions to apply disability equality in their work. And thank you. And as well, to make sure that accountability is ensured in reporting, in content production and management practices. So let me start from the question, why does media need to address disability equality? And obviously, we all agree that media shapes public attitudes and enables participation in society. That's not only. We observe as well that very often people with disabilities are underrepresented in media content and programming, and not so often accessible features are introduced in content which is published, screened, or disseminated around the world. And this limits opportunities for people with disabilities, especially in conflict situations, to access vital information. What is interesting as well to observe that media landscape is fragmented, and there are many different types of organizations around the world, and professionals face limited opportunities as well, those with disabilities, to access market space in media industry. So what we want as well to highlight, what there are many media professionals, and one of the UNESCO's report in 2024, we reported what nearly 800 media professionals covering environmental and climate issues were tagged, including physical violence. We experienced physical violence, detention, and harassment. And these numbers are increasing around the world. So it means that we have to deal with issues related to representation, to make sure that stories are more representative and accurate, where people with disabilities are considered as information sources, not only those who involved in discussions, express their views, but as well those who make decisions, as well as to make sure that media becomes more accessible. But not forgetting that there are as well media professionals around us. There are those who work in media industry, so they rights as those who access workspace, but reasonable accommodation would be provided. And policies in media would change as well. And I can give you example, what this is not easy to do because, and let me give you a little bit of sense of the magnitude of issues that we try to address in the world. We speak approximately about tens of thousands of print newspapers, 50,000 radio stations, around 25,000 television channels. Let's add to that more than 600 state-run or public service broadcasters, and we have one present here with us from Austria, which operate in 170 countries. And these are numbers only what it talk about traditional media. Let's make things more complicated. We all agree that in digital environment, digital-only outlets, blogs, and independent news sites are increasing. The number is increasing exponentially, and probably the number goes to hundreds of thousands. So how do we make sure that media reflects disability and it's able and its capacity to integrate disability equality is enhanced and supported? So we have to identify new ways of working with media organizations. And the story what I want to tell you is linked to self-regulatory bodies. Now, those who are not familiar with what those bodies are, so, and I'm sure what you know or have heard about this, so we speak about press councils, publishing regulators, media ombudspersons, and professional journalism associations. So these are the trusted organizations where media work together. Usually these are the same professionals who represent the industry, and they play a key role in setting standards through codes of ethics, editorial guidelines, where those which introduce professional standards and norms, and media organizations, outlets commit to follow. We as well those which ensure accountability. We monitor compliance, we review if there are any, let's say, complaints, including from disability community, and we as well introduce a number of capacity building work, resources, and different, let's say, workshops, which help media professionals to enhance their capacity, whether it would be journalists, editors, technical teams, and then managers. And what does it mean? But through self-regulatory bodies, we make sure that this doesn't stop at optional charity-based approach, but we make sure that disability equality becomes a part of professional standard in media, responsible media, which reports accurately in diverse manner and presents full diversity of people with disabilities, life and experience. And that creates in society a multiple effect, which is what we all want to achieve, but multiplier effect will be applicable across different institutions. So the number what I cited is really approximate. There are more media institutions and around the world, and it's not that easy to reach of them, all of them at the same time. So this is why self-regulatory bodies, we are closer to those media organizations. We act at national level, and we bring media outlets together, and we can introduce a probably even more efficient way what disability equality means. So these are a few UNESCO resources. If you're interested, I invite you to look at practical manual and master classes on disability equality. It gives a very clear guidance, short guidance about representation, accessibility, and management practices. We as well released UNESCO model plan for disaster preparedness for media institutions. And this document as well addresses people with disabilities needs, especially during the time of crisis, and guidelines for making digital platforms more accessible, introducing multi-stakeholder approach. So back to you. I hope I managed.
Thank you, Mgarda. So, where can indeed a round of applause? Where can our audience find these resources?
You can find one on UNESCO website. And I hope a presentation as well will be made available.
Most certainly. So, using the search engine of your choice, disability, equality in media, and UNESCO, those search terms will get you the results. As promised, I want to hand it over to the audience now. I always say the most interesting questions are questions and not commentary. So, bring some, wonderful, we even have a QR code, even better. So, let's maybe take a moment to scan the QR code here to come to the Disability Equality in Media webpage of UNESCO. I see some phones going up, wonderful. And as you're doing so, or if you're not scanning the QR code, start to think about the questions that you might have. As a reminder, we have the Austrian Broadcasting Corporation with us, we have UNESCO with us, we have Marianne Dixhorn with us, who's done great work with TwitchCon Europe, and we have Shani Danda, who, aside of being a fabulous and shady real estate broker on EastEnders, wears a lot of hats and is very familiar with her work in ITV and BBC. So, think of your questions. It would be great to know your name, your affiliation, maybe even the country you're coming from, and to have your question. We have some 18 minutes at our disposal. Let's make the most of the time. Feel free to just simply raise your hand. I will then see you. I will kindly ask you to then activate the microphone in front of you with a square button. And we see a first question here, please.
Hi, John Springer, Parents Alliance for Inclusion, coming from Belgium. And my question was, how do we shift the media representation narrative by saying, well, we know there's statistics, 15 to 25% of the world has disability, but all those people come from families and have friends, so really there's more closer to 1 in 3, 1 in 2 people that want to see representation for our community and for our families and friends as well. So how do we shift that narrative when we're talking to media outlets and social media outlets for representation?
Anyone from our panel would like to answer? I think Shani and then Marianne, yes? Please, Shani.
I think the biggest barrier is the fact that it's not disabled people in those decision-making positions or in those senior leadership roles or get to make those sort of commissioning decisions. And quite often, I think, I'm sure many people share the sentiment, you can tell when content, whether it's on TV or on social media, specifically for disabled people, is through a non-disabled person's lens or a disabled person's lens. So we have, we often see content that is for us, but done to us. But sometimes, you can tell the difference of when it's had disabled creatives involved in it. So that's the first thing, and that's just not happening enough. We definitely need more authentic casting, and we need accessibility to be embedded at every single stage, not just at the end where people are scratching their heads thinking, oh, have we got a disabled person in this? And I think we need to get decision makers and people that care about viewership and the commercials to really understand the commercial power of disabled people as well, but not just throw out that stat about the spending power, but actually what it means to their industry and how do you penetrate it.
Thank you for that, Marianne. Please, your intervention.
Yes, thank you. So if I look to the Twitch community, It's not a issue if you have a disability or you haven't. If you want to do a game or stream there, you are doing everything with this community. So I think at the events I advised, there are no disabled people and able-bodied people. There are, everyone can do it, and everyone belong to the community. So I think that's one of the examples, and I advise on more events, and I saw the same. It's if you want to do something and you are able to, you can do it. So I think that's maybe the new thing about belonging.
Thank you. So I think there's a thing or two we can learn from the gaming community, and if you're interested to getting in touch with that community, you know who to find. Irmgarda, your thoughts?
Yes, thank you. This is a very important question about representation in media. We released our manual in 2024, and we ran a number of workshops with media organizations around the world. Just to give you an idea, what we train media in Bangladesh, Cambodia, Mongolia, Myanmar, countries like Syria, Ukraine, and Zambia. Those workshops, what I ran myself, I noticed we can go very quickly through the content and stop on one another subject, and that means what media professionals, we are interested and we need to discuss certain aspects. Those who run workshops, you know what is very important moments. And that brings me back to your question about representation. So when we speak about representation, we spend quite a lot of time talking with media about what we call it media framing. And that means what kind of frames to use to portray people with disabilities. And I refer directly here to medical approach, to charity approach, to social approach, and human rights-based approach. And we go through a number of examples. What does it mean when you can cover a story from a medical point of view, and there is nothing discriminatory as long as a human rights-based approach is introduced? And it could be the same covering an event which relates to the charity. There is nothing wrong with that, but it depends how the narrative is constructed. So this is why we invite media professionals to pick up the right frame and not to forget what we speak about human beings. We are opinion leaders. We are relevant and reliable, confident information sources, and the voice matters.
Thank you for that, Irmgarda. Looking around the room, looking for hands, we have two questions, one in the front from Ryan and another one in a lady in a very colorful scarf. Ryan, if you're not offended, I'll ask the lady for the question first and then pick up your question and take those two questions to the panel. Please, the lady in the print scarf, your question.
Question is for any panelists. It's good that some of you in your countries have representation in movie productions and such. How are persons with disabilities portrayed in advertising? Do you also have disability representation in mainstream advertising?
Just wanted to check if everyone in the room heard the question well. Yes? Wonderful. So we have the question in regards to disability representation in advertising. And Ryan, please, if we could get your question as well, and we'll take those two back to the panel.
There we go. Ryan Smith from the Access Agency in Australia. I just had a question around driving that change. We have a system in Australia. It's actually an accreditation system where it's a points-based system for productions where they can reach a level of accreditation and they can get like a little stamp or an icon at the end of the production that says this was made inclusively, and it involves people in front of the camera and behind the camera. Now, it also costs to have that accreditation, right? So do we feel like there's a real impetus or strength in that sort of system, or would it be more wise to look at quotas or policies? What do we think is the biggest incentive or the biggest activator in making this change?
Panel? I think, Robert, we haven't heard from you in a while. Go ahead.
I can only say it for Austria. We have quotes for the accessibility to the program, but for the production not. But I can say two examples. We started 2 years ago. It has been an idea from my colleague Franz Josef Voreinig. He's the representative for accessibility and inclusion in the ORF here in the first row. A casting for people with disability, make you visible, mach dich sichtbar. And so we started to help them to get a role in films, in TV shows, in advertisement. We started now with 10 people with disability, and for the first year we are, it had been successful, but it's a long, long way. But I also see really a change of awareness in the media companies, especially at the Austrian Broadcasting Corporation in the last years. There's also a new generation of editors with a new view of on the reality and inclusion, and that's very important.
I'll answer the one around advertising first. So as I mentioned in my presentation, it's estimated that 16 to 20% of us are disabled globally, but only 1% of ads feature disabled people. And for my country in the UK, things are getting better, but it's very sparse, the good examples that I can share. There is some great work happening, and there's somebody's work that I'd love to shout out who is here, and that's Christine Hemphill. She's from Open Inclusion. She worked on an advert, consulted and researched for a retailer called Currys, and they're a big retailer who sell lots of electrical goods, things like your vacuum cleaners, fridge freezers, washing machines, your hair dryers and laptops. And essentially what Christine and the people that she worked with, which were disabled people to advise her, and lots of people that inputted into the research, they've created Currys' best performing ad ever, which includes an ad full of disabled people, and the ad is called Sigh of Relief. So if you pop that in on YouTube, that will come up. But it's an advert where the audio description and the British Sign Language and the captions are all integrated into the advert, so you don't have to go to a separate platform to get the audio described version. You don't have to go to somewhere else to get the captioned version. But the best thing about this advert is it is so funny. So that's a great example if anybody wants some inspiration or to see some amazing award-winning work. And then to the second question about accreditations, I think they can be helpful to get people to start doing the right thing, but I think it can easily fall into the trap of people doing things in a certain way just to get the commission, not because they care about the topic, because they want to produce good work, and especially because the industry is very freelance. What also then tends to happen is the same types of disabled people getting the same work, and I don't think that it always has the intended effect. I see a lot in the sustainability space in production. We have a scheme in the UK that's on every single thing that you see on TV. I don't know why it's harder for people to do it with disability inclusion. And I think, that topic about quotas, I think they can be helpful in the beginning to start getting good behaviour, but ultimately we shouldn't have to force people to be inclusive. just want to do it.
Irmgard, Marianne, any thoughts?
Yes, thank you. I think awareness starts with communication. If you, as an organization don't communicate about your policy of inclusion and your accessibility facilities, people with disabilities don't come. If you inform them what you for facilities arranged, people with disabilities come. And look like TwitchCon, we had 1 in 65 people with a visible disability. So that was, I think, because of the communication. So I think communication is the most important part of awareness.
Disability narratives in mainstream media is shaped at different levels. And I would say one of the things that we have to mention with editors in media industry, we still make a lot of decisions, which stories are produced, how we are framed, and on the top of that, we see more and more increasing role of digital platforms and algorithms. That means that we are no longer, and I speak about editors who make decisions, how people with disabilities will be portraited, what content would be disseminated, and what kind of, let's say, content we will see, or it will be in opposite ignored. So it is important to make sure that we take into account those different levels when we raise awareness, not only about among policy and decision makers, media outlets, but as well those who create digital platforms, and as well developers. And let's not forget that every single user makes as well informed decisions. What do we search, what do we look, what we want to learn about each other, as it's a part as well of our own path to be more information and media literate.
I'd like to build on that, Irmgarda, as I look at the clock and we're ticking down 2 minutes and 53 seconds. I will give all of the panelists 5 choices, and I would be interested who ultimately controls disability narratives in media. And you have 5 choices, and I would ask for 20 seconds. Editors, 1. Platforms, 2. Algorithms, 3. Persons with lived experience, 4, or completely different factor I did not mention. So who ultimately holds the biggest influence? And I'll start with Shani and go down the panel.
And we can only choose one?
We can only choose one, correct.
Okay, editors and commissioners.
In public media, editors.
That's editors too, Irmgarda.
It depends in which media.
Let's go for a general answer, given the time.
Editors and the managers of digital platforms.
Marianne?
I think it's also inclusion.
So the 5th inclusion. So we have 3 editors and 1 inclusion. So if you know of editors, those are the brains to pick. Those are the people to influence. So let's use our networks, let's reach those editors and ensure that we can continue to mainstream disability. You've seen today from Shani Danda and her work in TV, from OIF and the wonderful Eurovision Song Contest that is upon us in May. Please watch, be one of those 180 million people that will see some fantastic songs. I'm just thinking of Latte Macchiato from Estonia last year. What a song. And also, we've heard from UNESCO, you have the resources, so take advantage of that. And also visit Marianne in the Netherlands for TwitchCon Europe 2026 to see as she continues to improve and excel with her accessibility offering. Great to see a changing place at the gaming conference, and that it's just simply a part and a feature of a conference like that. Therefore, please, let's take the last 50 seconds of this panel and give a warm, raging applause to our panelists. And thank you very much.